The chickens were immune, but the brain fires came on Thursday. Right, are we recording yet?
We were recording on the chickens were immune.
Oh.
Actually, I decided that would be the best point in time to start.
Oh, well, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to... Well, it was going to be Walla Walla, Washington, but our biggest fan, and our only fan, doesn't like that. So, we need to change the name. This is attempt 2 at this recording. The first attempt was met by technology death, and then disappointment, anger, denial, rage, and finally acceptance. And so we were trying again, over a week later. And, yeah, it's slow. So, I am your host, actually the guest, really, but I am your host. Yes.
Co-host.
Well, I'm really the main one, I think. You're, like, it's like a symbiotic relationship, and I'm the host, and you're like the anemone that, like, stings unwanted things. And I scuttle around eating, like, dead skin particles at the bottom of the ocean.
That's not what they were eating.
So I think we should call this the Hermit and the Anemone instead of Walla Washington, so we don't mislead people.
Why? Which one of us is the hermit?
I'm the Hermit. Because I'm the more extroverted one. So I'll be the Hermit. Because anemones aren't very friendly, because, you know, with friends like these, who needs anemones? Classic.
Well, it's actually with fronds like these, if you want to add the extra pun to it.
Oh, yeah, but it's a friend. Well, it's not a friend. Friends aren't an enemy. Anemones aren't friends.
I don't like the hermit and enemy.
Right, well, I just made that up. Let me see. I have the notes from last time. Let's see if they're comprehensible.
Okay.
It says, new name for the intro, and then talk about comedian mistakes.
So, name.
Yes, I actually thought of a good one.
Okay.
I think we should call it Not a Bad Podcast.
But it's... no, I'm not going to fall for that. It's a good podcast.
Oh, so we should call it a good podcast.
No, that's
Oh, so it's not a good podcast, so I was right.
No, we don't even know how good it is. We've only had one fan of the podcast, and
well, I don't know if they count as a fan. They're more like a hate mob of a single person.
Yeah, because they're obsessed with Walla Walla, Washington. Sorry,
sorry.
sir, for misleading you.
You're not a hate mob. I'm sorry. You were misled because, you see, where Walla Walla, Washington came from is when I was young, I had this cassette recorder. And for those millennials out there, what a recorder is a thing that allows you to transfer sound onto cassettes. Well, anyways, the name that I was thinking for the podcast, which I think it's a nice alliteration. It's catchy, it's punchy, describes the situation perfectly, easy to remember, so you can tell your friends about it, your loved ones, you can share it around, and everything else. And
You're building this up too much.
It's something to talk about. It will be sung of in ages to come, from the trees by larks, taught to the command of the English language, just for the purpose of naming the podcast a name glorious unto the heights of a mighty elm. I think we should call the podcast. Sorry, I had a brain freeze.
Seriously?
The Philosopher and the Fool.
Okay. I don't like the name Philosopher and Fool, because it implies one of us is a fool.
Yeah, but the secret is we don't say which one it is. And then we both think that we're the cool fool. But secretly, we think the other one's the philosopher.
I don't think either of us are philosophers, though.
Philosopher is a lover of knowledge, from philo, meaning delicious pastry, and sulfur, meaning sulfur. But I think, okay, well, fine, you can be the fool, I'll be the philosopher. So which philosophy would you like me to talk about today?
I don't think we're always going to be talking about philosophy.
Not thinking. So that would be something more along the lines of Zen Buddhism, like the state of no mind, Mushin, it's called. Mu meaning no, but it's a bit more than no, or it kind of means unsay what you've said. So it's like because there's some statements that are false once uttered, but are true if not uttered. So if someone asks you a question, that the only answer is to not ask the question, you can say mu, which means to take the question back, to never have said it, which is saying there is a truth there, but it's unexpressible. By expressing it, you deny the truth of it. And that sounds like just sort of wishy-washy stuff, but if you look into Gödel's works in mathematics, you'll actually see that he proved it mathematically. Gödel Escherbach is great for that. That's where I got it from. Yeah, it's just really cool. It's the idea of
philosopher's folly.
Well, that's just one person, isn't it?
Yep.
But I'm here too, so it can't just be about you. We could call it. You see, like, it's a podcast is a dialogue, right?
Yes.
But The thing about philosophical dialogues is generally there was just someone that had the right thing and then the person that had the wrong thing. Like they're very weakly written. It's not a very good argument. A lot of them. It's just like there's like a lot of these Spanish dialogues. I forget the name of the guy, but he had three characters, and one of them was always just like, "Why is this like this?" And then the other one, and then the slightly wiser one was like, "Well, it's because of this, stupid one." And he was like, "Oh." And then they were like, "But is that true? Wisest one?" And he was like, "Yes." And
Really?
he always took the side of the one character every single time. Yeah, I forget his name. But it was so there's like these really dialogues where it's just like this guy is obviously meant to be right all the time. Like you know those comics that are really bad where it's like I think this and it's like you're wrong because of this and this and this and it's like you're
like
right.
the old those old Christian comics, like why D&D is evil and why gays are evil because of the story of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Or it can even be like those old educational videos like drugs are bad. It's like no they're not. I love drugs. And then the person's like they are bad. I knew a guy who did drug and now he's dead. And then they're like you're right. And so I like that dialogue.
Okay.
It's silly. So it's like the
Also,
philosopher and the fool.
The name is actually growing on me, and partly the reason is because of Touchstone.
Yeah, the fool, I find, is often the one who asks the questions that are foolish to ask. But the thing about doing that is often it's not that foolish to ask questions. In school, I did, well, and I think that was because, well, I can't shut up for one thing.
Really?
I asked a lot of questions in school, and I looked like an idiot most of the time. I'd be like, wait a minute, if plants grow towards sunlight, then how come roots grow down? Huh?
What? Whoa. What? Oh, to get water. Okay. Good.
But see, within the words of the fool, you will find wisdom.
You are listening to The Fool and the Philosopher. Which one's which? You decide.
When you have a calico cat, right, if you skinned it, and then you took that skin...
Okay, are you going to be skinning it with a knife or a potato or both?
There's a lot of ways to skin a cat. Huh?
Is there, though?
Yeah, you can... Okay, what you can do is you can take a knife and you can just, like, cut it around the ankles and stuff and pull it off. Or you could, like, put hooks into its skin and then just tug really fast. And then,
okay, no, we're done. Okay, we're done.
Anyways, if you skinned a calico cat and you said that it was covered in a layer of black and white fur, like a layer of mosquito and birds, then it's just it's right. It's just like they make up different spots on it. So I couldn't think of a good analogy, so I went with skinning a cat, which is a classic. I'd rather be a witless fool than a foolish wit.
Is that the right way of saying it?
Nope.
I'd rather be a
So
fool.
Shakespeare, he's good. He's very good. That's undisputed. But I don't know if his storytelling's good. Like, he's very good at puns. He's very clever. But I don't know if that's enough to carry... Like, he's...
Well, it's meant to be the actors that carry the story.
Yeah, but the stories aren't that exciting. They're not that interesting.
You have your manuscript of how it's written. Like, you don't follow that manuscript to the key with acting.
The thing about Shakespeare's writing, though, is that it's so precisely done, you'd almost have to. It's all iambic pentameter, and... So he's good, but I don't think he's, like...
The best?
Yeah, or even... I don't think he's the best. He's very good, though. Very, very talented.
The Bard is good.
Well, that's the thing. We're calling him the Bard. I think there's plenty of other writers equal to him or greater. So I don't know why he's society's standard. I guess because a lot of the good writers, like that, write interesting stories as well.
Also, in school, one of the main things that I was taught is Shakespeare.
Well, why I think they probably use Shakespeare is you can get some very complex, in-depth writing. And they're very short. They're like 50 pages long, his stuff. But if you want to read like War and Peace in a class...
Your students are not going to be able to do it.
Oh, they can. They can. It's just, it'll take up most of your class. Oh, they surely will.
No, I know some people have a lot of trouble reading and they just...
Yeah,
like a friend of mine who really liked 1984, he had like 4 months to read it, and he still didn't finish it in time.
I think most people could read War and Peace in a semester, no problem.
But that's all you would do.
Yeah, or most of what you do. And you want...
multiple things.
If someone's going to take twice as long, you want them to be able to do it as well. Because the school system has to be designed...
Your class is held back by the slowest moving train.
Not so much that, it's that there's only a certain amount of teachers. Otherwise it gets expensive. What we've done is we've divided into 12 grades. And that's like our sort of... Like, you could chop it up more finely. You could have like... This grade is for people that learn slightly faster at 3rd grade, but they'll be a bit slower than a 4th grader. So you have like this sort of 24 grades of like... You slip in and out of them depending on how well you're doing. Otherwise you move up. So let's say you're in grade 1. Then you go to grade 3 and then to grade 5. All the way up to grade 23 or 25. But if you start going fast, if you start falling behind, then you go from grade 1 to grade 2. and then from grade 2 you'd go to grade 4, and then from grade 4 to grade 6. And if you start doing really well, then you could go from grade 6 to grade 9 or 7 and get back on the fast track. So you can do it like that, but you only have so many teachers, so that's...
Another product of that would be it would separate out people a bit, because at a young age it's very good to have close age people together.
Yeah, well, I think the main point of school isn't really learning. It's learning how to function within a restricted environment, and it's making friends. I think that's the main portion.
Yeah.
I think arguments are a bad idea. I think discussion is more important. I say argument. I don't mean never disagree with people. I mean, don't go in with the intention to win.
Go into intention to
learn and not even to teach. Go in with the intention to learn. Because if you go in to teach, then you already think you're in the right. That said, it's much harder to than not, because when your ideas are attacked, you feel attacked personally. It's like you feel like you're going to die.
Thank you for choosing to listen to The Fool and the Philosopher. Or is it Philosopher and Fool? Who cares? I'm a very flawed individual.
Yes.
Okay. At this point in time, when, there's this thing that girls do in high school, which is they will go, they'll do really good art. Maybe guys do this too, but I only notice with the girls in my school, which is they do really good art.
Yes.
And then people tell them, oh, that's great. They're like, oh, it's not all that good, or it's not that good, I'm not a good artist. And they drew something amazing, and they say that so all their friends will say, oh, that's great, ooh, that's great. Whereas the situation here where I'm saying I have many flaws, I actually do have many flaws, and this is the point in time you actually are meant to reassure me.
I don't know. I think you should admit it. I don't think I don't like...
You don't want to pander to my pansiness? You don't want to go, you're not flawed because I am flawed. You want me to accept I'm flawed. You want to beat me down in the dirt so I can get back again stronger than ever before.
Well, I just think...
If I must fall, I will rise again each time.
Like a
phoenix.
Better
man.
No, I think that pandering for compliments shouldn't be rewarded.
No.
Although I'm not rewarded so much as encouraged.
But just that whole thing with the art actually does really...
I don't know if that'd be high school girls so much as artists.
Just artists? You mean artists or artistes?
Well, you can't be an artist unless you hate yourself.
You can't be an artiste unless you hate yourself.
No, artistes can love themselves because they think anything's art. They can, stack a bunch of bicycle tires on top of a polo cue.
Do I need, a third category then? Because there's the artist, there's the artiste. What's the person who just goes hey, I drew a picture, it's good, and then they walk off?
That's the artiste. Oh, wait, the person that just likes drawing?
Yeah, a person who just draws a picture, and they're not miserable. Or they might even do it for a living, but they're not this expresses the suffering in my soul, or anything's art, and they pile a bunch of trash cans. It's just the person who, draws a picture and, I can live with that. What I've been doing is an artist is a person who draws a picture and they're I can live with that, and I've been calling the artiste the person's inner turmoil.
No.
Suffering.
So the artiste is the inner turmoil suffering, but the artist is the person that hates all their creations. The person you're talking about is a subcategory of artist, not artiste. Okay. And they are flawed artists because they don't see the how terrible their art is.
Okay, so they're the truly happy artists, though?
Well, they're happy, but they're also ignorant. Because they don't realize how bad their art is. If you ever create something that you are satisfied with,
you're never going to do better.
Then you're not going to ever improve. You might as well stop because you've reached the peak. There's nothing more to learn.
But what if you like some parts for ooh, that ear?
Yeah, exactly. That's good. See, that's a real artist. There has to be a flaw in your work. There's always a flaw in your creation.
Unless you're perfect.
Well, if you're perfect, then you need to use a flawed tool because nothing can be perfect.
Actually, it's interesting, the whole thing of using a flawed tool. I thought about this whole concept with acting. Someone can deliver a script perfectly, but one point, one actor's having a conversation with another actor, and it's a son and mother, and they started saying each other's lines.
That would be more of a flaw of Grieg's writing than anything, wouldn't it?
Maybe.
Because I think if the writing's good, then the writing's good. I think it's just because you watched the play so many times that you enjoyed a difference.
I still think sometimes flaws can be good.
No, I think flaws are necessary. Well, I don't know if everything should be flawed, but I think everything is flawed. And I think recognizing those flaws allows you to
improve upon them until you have none. And then when you have no flaws, you can take over the world.
Well, no, because I don't think there's much point once you have no flaws. Because you've done it all. You might as well just give up. When you're playing an RPG and you get all the best gear and top level and stuff, and then you're woo, now I'm just going to go on a rampage or something, and then you're oh, well, this is no challenge.
Maybe that's you,
yeah.
But when you fight, you go into the PvP with all the other people who have top gears, and then you have to optimize, and there's still improvement you can do.
Well, then you're not perfect.
Or you can achieve your perfectness, and then you can beat the snot out of everyone and go, I'm the best.
See, life is
Try to knock me off my throne. Because you won't.
It's like,
You are listening to The Fool and the Philosopher. Which one's which? You decide.
so, comedian mistakes. We were discussing this over a week ago now. But
Yes.
comedians do this thing. They hurt themselves. If you're only down on yourself, if you just always are down on yourself, you just sort of like, you look pathetic to others and you feel pathetic to yourself. You weaken yourself every time you do that. You have to be honest. You're not a terrible person. You're just like slightly terrible. And you're not a good person. You're just slightly good. You have to like be honest. You have to see your strengths and your flaws, and you can't just always be like, oh, I'm down, because then the audience just sees you, this pathetic person on stage just whining. And nobody wants that. Even if they're like, ha, and the laughs just get like sadder and sadder, and you're making yourself sad. And you need to tell jokes that aren't about yourself, or they're funny things that happen to, or interesting. And it's just a common mistake comedians fall into is self-deprecation. They're like, well, yeah, I know I'm a fat person, and then they just, being fat is part of their identity, and being lonely is part of their identity, and being sad is part of their identity. It's actually very common on the internet right now. You see a lot of these posts like, this is so me, or this is totally, or tell me about it, or my life, or me in capital letters.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is like nihilistic and dark and sad.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so pathetic, haha. It's something like me, and then it shows someone like, it's 3 a.m. 3 p.m. Normal people are outside doing stuff. I'm still under my covers with my laptop, and then it's like me at 3 a.m. Normal people asleep. Me still at my laptop, and those aren't healthy things, and they know it, and that's the joke. But it's not actually good. Like, there's a reason that we know it's not healthy, and so you shouldn't identify with it. You should want to change.
Well, I think there's a lot.
I think identifying the problem is a good first step, but if you do that all the time, then like you're being a person you don't want to be.
I think there's just a lot of really unhealthy people out there.
I think we should have a good old-fashioned witch hunt where we have this start line, and you shoot a gun, and then every hour, anyone that's the bottom 10% are just burned until you...
No, I was just thinking when you're saying to have a witch hunt, I was going to say two. Sort of.
Yeah, well,
But
if you want to have a
that's
witch hunt as
political.
well, then go ahead. And I'm going to have copper dust in my fire, so they're green.
Okay, just to make it look like they're a witch, like they go up, woof, chance
No, it
green
just
fire.
looks cool.
Oh, okay. It's not to prove they're witchful, they're burning.
No, they're obviously a witch, because otherwise they wouldn't be on fire.
Oh,
We only burn witches,
why? How do we know it's always a witch?
because they're on fire.
So, the comedians and people being unhealthy,
Yeah, stop it.
stop it.
Do
yeah.
better.
It might be you, but you should recognize that and then try to do better.
Yeah, fix yourself, you loser.
Well, that was a very philosophical thing to say.
Well, the thing is, right, if they think that applies to them, then they're doing it wrong. Because I don't think you are a loser.
No.
And if that hurt you, then look into yourself. See what part of you hurt yourself. And change
kill
it. Change it.
Oh.
Yeah, so, speaking of video games, Daniel Radcliffe.
Okay, Daniel Radcliffe.
Daniel Radcliffe was the actor for Harry Potter. I think he did an excellent job. He seems like an all-around pretty sweet dude, so that's enough of him.
I don't think that's enough on the subject of Daniel Radcliffe. You have Tourette's related to Daniel Radcliffe.
Tourette's related... It's like Crush, but instead it's Tourette's.
Yeah. Sure. Instead of like swearing randomly or out of nowhere, you will just randomly blurt out Daniel Radcliffe in a very certain way. And I think...
Daniel Radcliffe!
No, but I think what caused that is one of the how it should have ended. I think that's might be the triggering influence that affected you to go Daniel Radcliffe randomly.
It's not.
It isn't?
Nope.
What was it then?
It's a secret.
Is it?
It's your job, listener, sitting there in Walla Walla, Washington, to dislike and then find where the Daniel Radcliffe thing's from.
And put it in the comments down below.
Yes,
Or,
with your favorite insult.
yes.
I prefer nitwit. That's a good one, because having the wit of a louse is pretty sad.
Did you know censoring is really, really hard? Like censoring a word in a sentence? It is such a bleep to do. When you're editing audio and you want to censor a word someone had and you try to bleep it out, it is really hard to bleep a word out without like catching everything around it. It doesn't actually work.
You are listening to The Fool and the Philosopher.
They're
I
actually
like
pretty
Alaskans.
Nice. Alaskans are nice, yeah.
I like the Alaskan cities. I like
Yeah.
Alaskan food. I like their culture. I like their...
Oh, you like their food. Isn't that a shame?
Oh yeah, I can't eat food anymore. There's this idea, it's not very well tested, it's very new science,
Yeah.
just like of last year's January, that they've started really looking into it,
Yeah,
that
they've
a
actually-
small percentage of depression may actually be caused by inflammation, in the brain. Inflammation can be possibly related to gluten. Now, I'm the first one to get right on board with these gluten-free, veggie-free...
Are you?
No, I hate that sort of thing. It annoys me. It's like, oh, I can't eat gluten. I have allergies.
There's a great irony here, actually.
So, you see, that sort of thing just, it's fine.
I'm sensitive on the outside, you're sensitive on the inside.
Yeah. If you punch me, do I not bleed? I'm a hemophiliac.
That has to be quite a punch.
Can you imagine being a hemophiliac? That must be so rough.
And I think
I would die. Like, look at. I'm pointing my knuckle at the microphone, and look at it. It has a little scratch on it. I get like 3 scratches a day by bumping into stuff. I would die if I was a hemophiliac. Yeah. Anyways, so I'm not like a trend person. Celiacs, I'm fine with. They're cool. They have a disease, right?
Yeah.
It's those people like those. I call them
trenders.
Trenders, not trendsetters. I was gonna say trendsetter, but I meant
no. They're a trender.
They're like trenders. They're like, ooh, no gluten. Ooh, I'm a vegan. Ooh, like did I mention I'm a vegan? I'm a vegan helicopter pilot who doesn't eat gluten. Well, and you're just kind of like, oh, thank I needed to know that. But so that kind of thing. But I don't think those people are actually that common. I think they get a lot more hate than they deserve. I think if you want to be a vegan, be a vegan. You want to not eat gluten, don't eat gluten. I'm not eating gluten right now because I'm actually feeling much better. And I wonder if people actually, or at least me, have problems with gluten.
Well, it's interesting because you're saying like a very small amount of depressed people do it, but
Can I speak faster?
In a controlled study that was done recently, it was a control group with people with depression, and they changed up the control group's diet. And in the people without the diet change, their depression stayed pretty constant. In the people who they did change their diet to remove gluten and such stuff,
yeah, every single person went down.
Every person went down, and 30% went considerably down.
Yeah, I read the study. I think that the diet they switched to isn't actually necessarily the healthiest, though. It was sort of weird. It's like this.
What was the diet? I didn't read the diet. I just heard about it.
It was the Mediterranean diet. And the thing about the Mediterranean diet is Mediterranean people live the longest on Earth, but that doesn't actually mean anything.
They do it. They live a long time because they're also exercising out in the sun, and their genetics also determine they live long.
They could live a really long time despite their diet.
Yeah.
Or it could be that fish basically make you immortal, but red wine kills you instantly. And so by eating them both, they just live longer than everyone else. But they're actually hurting themselves because they switched over to drinking red wine and stuff in that study, and I don't think that's actually necessarily the best for you. I don't know, but I think they would have to do a much better study than that.
Yeah.
One. But that was very interesting, groundwork. And there's just a lot of the science...
starting groundwork, like depression. Science is showing that depression, some of it might be caused by swelling in the brain.
And it's also been shown that antidepressants actually reduce swelling in the brain. And that might actually be the effect rather than the neurotransmitter change.
Yeah, the side effect might actually be what's helping you.
Yeah, because there's actually some antidepressants that don't actually affect neurotransmission, and they just do reduce.
That depression might be caused by brain swelling?
Yeah, it's fascinating. I think it's going to go places. This is science, and I don't think it's going to be for everyone. I feel like I'm starving all the time, so.
You just need to eat bigger portions of the stuff.
I eat until my stomach hurts because it's so stuffed, because I don't know that I'm full. And I do it at every meal, and I feel hungry all the time. I need bread.
No, you don't. It's a placebo effect.
No, it's not. I can't feel not hunger.
Well,
and it's horrible. I've lost 160 pounds in the past week.
No, you haven't.
I only weigh 150, and that was before the diet. And now the feature about video games.
Stop that.
Upgrades. Upgrades should be good in video games. Did I talk about that last time?
No, you actually didn't talk about the whole problem of civilization. We had the discussion.
Oh, no.
I think it's a good thing to discuss.
Well, not so much Civilization, I was thinking.
I mean, the games that don't do what Civilization does.
Civilization, every single upgrade is awesome. I saw this video on it. It was by... officially Devin. He had some great insights on this. It was called Just One More Turn. It was something like that, and it was Total War versus Civilization, and it was really good. He basically just said that Civilization, every single upgrade in the game totally changes the gameplay. Total War upgrades are like 3% bonus this and that. But I wasn't thinking of that. I was thinking more like RPGs, where they're just like, you do 10% more damage or something.
Oh, yeah, that too. Like,
That's
Battle
boring.
Brothers does a great job of that.
Yeah, Battle Brothers is awesome.
You get a 5% upgrade every single time you hurt an enemy.
Ori and the Blind Forest is another awesome one. It's like, you have a jump, your upgrade is double jump. Suddenly the game changes. Your upgrade is you get double the bullets. It's like,
yeah,
whoa.
well, that's also Metroid.
Yeah.
Those are the Metroid games. Like, you get to upgrade. Okay, you get the charge shot. Okay, what's the charge shot do for you? Well, know how those little monsters you had to kill before by like tapping the A button rapidly? One charge shot hits them, they're down. Oh, that's awesome. Then you get missiles. And I was like, okay, missile are cool. What's better than a missile? Frost missiles that when you fire them, they freeze the target. What's better than that? You charge up a frost missile, you launch it, it freezes everything on the screen you can see.
Yeah, so in an RPG, ideally, when you level up, you wouldn't change your statistics, if you even have statistics. Rather, you just get a
Ability. Or something
like,
cool.
and not like an ability like you jump 10% higher or something.
Or
but,
you shoot twice.
Yeah. Not even, well, an ability where you jump twice as high would be fun, but even just make it a double jump. Why
Yeah,
not?
double jumps are really fun. Like, one of the coolest looking RPGs, like, is this one game which is like sort of your classic, like, fighting off hordes of enemies, you're super OP. But one of the coolest mechanics is, like, you get to fly around when you get later. And, like, there's different classes that have different flying mechanics. Like, there's these girls with umbrellas, or guys with umbrellas, and their whole flying thing is they, like, spin their umbrella and then let go of it, and they go shooting off in the direction of their umbrella, and they pop it open and catch a breeze and can swirl up higher.
That sounds cool.
Then they can spin again, point themselves in a different direction, and shoot that way. And then a different class has a sword, and he like throws his sword out and then flies to and grabs it, and they can throw a different direction and fly to and grab it. And that's like one of the main mechanics of the game. Is the classes, each class has a different way of flying, and that's just really fun looking.
So yeah, game developers, upgrades don't have percentage upgrades or this or that. Just make it like you have like a whole new ability. Let's say you're playing Skyrim, and instead of an upgrade being like bows do 30% more damage, you have like your bow. When you have a bow, you do slow motion, or your arrows now all explode.
Well, there's a mod called the Ordnance Mod Pack.
Skyrim does a good job, by the way.
And also modders do a good job. But like one of the things for bows, which made bows really cool, is if you stand still for like 10 seconds, your shot gets 3 times as more powerful. So you can be stealthed with that. It's like called the Hunter's Hawkeye. And so you make your shot way more powerful by just standing still and pop up. And then you can fire it. Or another thing it did, which is like a joke even off the Skyrim, when you shoot someone in the knee, it will make them fall over.
Yeah,
it gives them an arrow to the knee, and it's like one of the upgrades.
And I think this is why board games like Agricola, like worker placement games, are so fun, because it's exponentially exploding.
One more turn. The whole concept of like, ooh, I can't wait for the next upgrade.
Because let's say you're playing like Agricola, suddenly you have twice as many workers, and you're like, I can get stone and wood on this turn, which lets me build another barn. So I gotta play another, and then I have a barn. That means I can get 3 pigs. I have never played Agricola, you might be able to tell. And then you're like, I have 3 pigs, which means I can now feed twice as many people, which means I'll be able to open a new settlement here, which means my armies will be able to now, and I have a spare dude, so I can get iron, so my armies will be able to have soldiers with iron.
Just, like, that's civilization.
And these iron soldiers can conquer this place, which will give me horses, and these horses will allow me to have mounted troops, and this...
every next step.
Yeah.
Whereas games like, woo, I leveled up, okay, it's 10 more levels until I can get this cool shadow clone ability, which I really want.
The other thing is running out of upgrades is bad. Like I think the example the Devon guy gave in Total War was the problem that once you fully upgrade a city, you're done with it, and every city is basically you fully upgrade every city in your empire. So going through your cities is boring. It's not like, I want this city to have the ability to convert lava into happiness, and I want this city to be able to
convert dirt into love.
I want this city to be able to create ice bridges that let me travel across the ocean and also block off boats. And I want this city to be invisible. And I'm going to get this city the upgrade, the tier 17 upgrade, which has the mountain men from the chaos dimension that send the lords of the chaos marines back in time.
So
the alternate universe,
gun down your enemies.
To gun down your enemies. You don't want to run out. You want your cities to have interesting choices. I think
even once you get to advanced science tech, you can still be building the rockets to go into outer space. Once you get future tech, you're doing stuff with all that.
Because the way that Total War tries to make you have choices for your cities is they have limited building slots.
Yeah. That's not a choice. That's a limitation.
Well, it does limit it makes you make choices, but the problem is that there's so few buildings that you don't get that much stuff. You get like 6 things in each city, and so every city has 6 things and you're done.
Yeah.
So forcing you to choose is good,
but
they need
awesome
more.
Choices.
It needs to be taller. It needs to be deeper.
Yeah, the upgrades, the strings need to go farther, and it needs to be cooler.
Yeah, because
10% more guys. That is a good upgrade. Yeah. Like 10% more guys is a good upgrade. But wouldn't you rather have like every single one of your guys you build a city now is riding a war boar?
And you know what you can do even as a game developer? and you're like, well, I can't think of that many creative things. All you do is go like, all your units now have flaming swords.
Yeah.
And it's just 10% damage. But it's a flaming sword!
Yeah, and I mean, it does have to give you a bit of graphics work.
Yeah.
More to do, but still.
But, and if you don't want to do that, then just be like, units are 10% faster. And it's like, well, that's boring. But what if your units could hop?
Yeah.
And then that's no graphic work. You just watch them go like, boing, boing, boing.
Yeah.
Or they can teleport. Or you can just make it exciting.
Yeah, make it exciting. Make it interesting. Like, one of the coolest things I think Warhammer added was their lab to Warhammer 2, Total War Warhammer. You can add moon gravity. And so when things get knocked back, they'll go flying off into the air and be stuck up in the air and useless for a really long time, then land and bounce across the ground and get back up again, and then charge back in the battle just to get smacked by the
And what if
ogre
there's
again.
a spell that...
That'd be exciting. Or what if you had a city that could
Cause that field.
like had a field of
that or something in your
Yeah.
territory. Oh, that'd be cool.
I'd want to see. I'd want to have a battle in that, and then I'd also want like the rain of fire arrows from the fortress that I built in my city that lets me shoot anywhere in my province.
and
as
they're
a-
just constantly coming
as a
down.
range attack.
Like, the Black Ark, how it lets you bombard?
Yeah.
What if you could build like a...
Thing in your provinces that let you bombard or something.
Or what if it's just like there's arrows just
Or could,
constantly
like
raining
unleash
down?
dragons on battlefields because you had like these dragon farms.
Yeah, you have a dragon nest. You have a dragon tower, and like your town's dragon pours out. It's not a unit you own.
Yeah,
but
it just
can
enters
defend
every battle.
It enters a battle in that territory. So you're like, oh, I lost my dragon in this battle. It's a sacrificial unit because I have the dragon tower.
Yeah, it could be
Be like weaker than it or something.
but
yeah.
just that idea.
Yeah, you have the dragon.
Or it's
tower.
like a really high tier building. Because the thing, what a quick fix to Total War, buildings at the very least, not their levels up, would just be to get rid of the amount of buildings you're allowed to build.
Yeah.
That would make it wider, so there'd be like twice as much content and be exciting.
Yeah.
But an even better fix would be to make it go deeper and
Yeah.
keep the building restrictions. Because the building restrictions, I think, are a good idea, but it
yeah,
needs to
just
be deeper.
there has to be like more of a, oh, I want this, or
And-
oh, these combos work with this town. Oh.
And maybe have buildings that cost like 50,000 gold that give you
Another building slot or something.
Yeah.
just so that you can really focus on a city if you want to. Because I think what Europa Universalis actually does well is you can have a single province that is insanely technologically advanced if you focus on it like crazy, which is quite fun.
And then the French will come and take it from you.
Whereas in Total War, it has the classic,
Yeah.
if you're strong, you get stronger,
Yeah.
which is hard to avoid, but
Some people can do it, some games can do it.
yeah, it's very hard in a grand war game. Europa Universalis does it by having so many factions. Total War actually has tons of factions too, so they can make it work.
Yeah.
Except their goal isn't to... Like, the thing about Europa Universalis is your goals are your own, so
Yeah.
it's a bit easier.
Well, Total War, they now have a sort of your goals are your own, so it's trying to get all the black books.
Well, that's not really your goal as your own. That's that's the opposite, actually.
Oh.
Depressing philosophy to leave with. So the last
I
one
don't
was-
want to set a precedent, actually, of depressing prosody. I think we could just end on I think it's time to end.
I think we should always trail off in some awkward philosophical rant about something that I don't quite understand. So I've been looking into Carl Jung lately, and I really am having troubles understanding him. He has this very conflicted idea of animus and anima, and basically men have an anima and women have an animus, and it's like their shadow self, and they interact with their shadow self, and it allows them
Okay.
to understand, like, it completes them. They have to join with their shadow self to become a complete human being. But if you become possessed by your shadow self, then you become a bad person. So you have to work with them but not be possessed by them. So that's called animus and anima possession. For example, in man, their anima is supposed to be their feminine side, containing feminine aspects. I don't know what those are. So you want to listen to them and be guided by them and hold them as an ideal to work towards and all this sort of stuff, but not to be possessed, because if you're possessed by them, you become withdrawn and sad and lonely, and I'm not sure why that is. And with women, they become aggressive and blaming people if they get possessed by theirs, and angry, and so that's being possessed by the animus, like their masculine aspect, and they blame things and they think there's dominance hierarchies that are trying to control them, and Yeah, I don't really understand it so far.